later if you're kind of jumping between sessions. But I'm excited to have you here if you're live. So if you are live, please go ahead if you're kind of jumping between sessions. But I'm excited to have you here if you're live. So if you are live, anything is possible when you're live, hence being live. So let me start fresh. So welcome. I'm Tanya Avrith, and I will be your moderator / co-presenter today. Welcome to the product spotlight on Adobe Spark. Today's been crazy, hasn't it? Those keynotes, the Ignite sessions were so great. I was just saying to Jenna, like, I couldn't even leave. I wanted to stay on and watch all of them, but I had come in a little bit earlier. So I would love in the chat for you guys to share a little bit of your biggest takeaways from the last few sessions, because my head is already spinning, and it's great. If you are sort of new to Adobe Spark and you've been hearing all about it in all these other sessions, this will be a nice kind of overview of some of the new features that are coming up. So my name is Tanya Avrith, and I work at Adobe as the education evangelist for North America. And I'm so excited to have my partner here today. I'm going to let Jenna introduce herself, but Jenna, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Really excited to be here. I'm a product manager on the Adobe Creative Cloud for Education team. I'm a former educator, middle school ELA teacher, and I've worked in ed tech for a while. And so really excited to share some of the new features that have come out in Adobe Spark and how you can get started with them during back to school. And today we're going to focus primarily on 3 new features that we think there's just a ton of depth to, and a lot of really good, simple, easy to get started ideas on how you can just use them your first week back in the classroom or whenever you're ready.
Yes, we chose intentionally. We wanted to choose some of the features that you might not necessarily be familiar with because they're somewhat new from the last few months. So we're going to just focus on 3 features today with you. And by the end of the session, I'll also share a couple blog posts with some really great resources that you can apply in your classroom literally tomorrow. So stay tuned for that as well. Okay, so Jenna, I'm going to share my screen and we're just going to get right into it. So I see a lot of you joining here, and Jenna and I are also in the chat. We're moderating simultaneously. So welcome, Alessandra from Italy, and Diane from Texas, and Derek joining us from Ohio. So Troy, welcome. As I said, if you're joining us, feel free in the chat to introduce yourself, let us know where you're joining from, and to ask questions along the way. We're gonna do our best to kind of moderate and answer simultaneously today. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and share my screen, and we're just gonna kick it off. All right, so first things first, Jenna, this is my dashboard. It's busy, as you can see. I am a crazy user. Yours might look a little different. Those of you who are watching, maybe you don't have as many folders as me, but as you can tell, I use this a lot. But this is actually an education account. And Jenna, before we even begin, maybe you can kind of explain the difference between like the premium education account and a regular account. I think that's kind of important to know.
Yeah, and I think you sort of referenced this, but through your school or your district, you get the premium version of Adobe Spark, which is great. You have access to all the new fun features. Some of the things we show you today are going to be only available for our premium users. And so the other difference that I think is really important to know is that because we know educators and students come in here and they need to know, how does this apply to me? How does this relate to learning? You'll see some differences in what an education account looks like versus a commercial account or somebody who uses Spark for something like social media. And that includes highlighting templates that are education based, so helping you connect it to your curricula objectives. It also includes highlighting tasks that are more likely to be used in classrooms. So things like a web page or a video or an infographic. On your homepage, you're going to have quick access to things that are really pertinent to you and your students. And you're not going to have to sift through getting past a Facebook post, which there's relevance there too, to be honest. but we just want to make it as simple and seamless as possible for you to get started.
Exactly. Exactly. And the nice thing also about the accounts you have with your students is that you get access to like a lot of premium features that often you would pay for if you were using a commercial account, so you get access to all the goodness, which is amazing. So all the extra templates and the ability to create from templates as well, and a lot of the things that we're going to show today, the library feature as well. So we're going to be showing you some of these features that are pretty unique to the school accounts as well. All right, so Jenna, which should we start with?
I think we should start with remove background.
Okay, cool.
And one of the reasons why I'm excited to talk about this feature today, because I think it's one of those features that when I first saw it, you know, even digging into my past educator brain, it didn't totally strike me as a very clear education need. But one of the amazing things that you're going to show, Tanya, and that you enlightened me on, is how applicable it can be in the classroom. And I think it's a really good representative of how sometimes these feature sets or these creative tools, they have things that you might not have used before, or you might not know exactly how to get started. But being in these sessions and thinking about it deeply and watching the sort of work that you do, I think is really great for figuring out, wow, this is amazing. You know, this gives students amazing opportunities to express themselves, to do things really quick for like a warm up or an exit ticket. And so I think this is a task or a feature that really represents that mindset.
I agree. I think so too. And I'm going to talk about one activity in general that I use. And this is one that I love. If you were in my session yesterday, you might have with Mary, you might have heard us chatting about it, but I'm going to go into a little more detail with it. And this is, I love to do visible thinking routines with students. Either as checking for understanding at the beginning of a unit when I want to capture what do you know, or as exit tickets when I want to synthesize big ideas. And because I think, in general, when we pair visuals with snippets of understanding, and we pair the text with visual, that's really deep learning. That's a great way for students to synthesize their ideas. So with that being said, I'm going to pull together. So I just opened up a graphic. I chose like create a custom size. And in this case, I'm just going to go to the popular. I'm going to choose next, and I'm going to open up a square kind of sandbox template. Sorry, not template, sandbox play area. That's what I call it. So I clicked on the background. This is, I always say, if you click on it, you can edit it. It's like the best way to teach it. Click on a feature, it lets you edit it. It's that straightforward. So I clicked on it. So I'm going to create, Jenna, I'm going to do a 6-word summary. And I love to do this as a way to think about synthesizing the ideas from, let's say, a book. Okay. So in this case, we did this yesterday, but I'm going to do it again. We're going to use Lord of the Flies. Just because I love that book, I read it in 8th grade, I think it's a classic, and I think that there's so many great themes that you can pull out visually. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into photos. And so like I could go in and upload a photo. I can find free photos. I can pull a photo from my library. We're going to come back to that afterwards.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, exactly. There's Lightroom. I can connect it to photos from Google and Google Drive, which is amazing. Okay, but in this case, I'm actually just going to go into find free photos. These are all Creative Commons, free to use and share, which is awesome, right? So we're teaching kids about good digital citizenship. So I'm going to go in. And
one other thing, connecting back to what's special about education accounts, we make sure for all of the photos that we source that they've been moderated, so you're not going to identify any, risque or inappropriate content that your students could use in the classroom.
Yes, that is very true. I was a beta school once upon a time, and we will not have any of that ever happen again. So I giggle because I won't get into it, but I'm famous in Adobe product circles for my experience, and we have betas for a reason, so that those things never happen again. All right, so I've added an image, and I've clicked on it, and so because we're talking about Lord of the Flies, we're going to go to the islands, okay? And I've clicked it, and now I'm going to go, and I'm going to add it to the back. Boom. All right, and I can kind of scroll here and move it over. So here we are, Lord of the Flies, and I'm gonna add some elements here because I was saying we're gonna add background, right? And we're gonna also remove background. So we're gonna think about some of the elements and themes from the movie. So let's have a look here. Jenna, you're in the chat as well, right? Okay,
yep,
so I'm going to use some of you guys who are watching. So I want you to put your 8th grade English language arts hats on if you either you teach it or you've read the book. And if any of you can remember any of the big themes, things that showed up, popped up, and I'll give you an example of one. One of the themes or ideas or things that pops into the book were of course, the pigs, right? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull out a pig. So you, Jenna, you tell me if anyone has anything else that they're finding. Okay, so I click onto the picture, and over on the right, there's this little button and it says remove background. It's amazing. Okay, ready? Watch. It's magic. Okay, wait. Oh, wait. It's taking a second. Ah, there it is! Okay, so I removed background. I love this part. Look how easy this is. And I can go in here if I wanted to. And I could even I can get crazy and like erase elements. I could zoom in. It gives me a lot. Jen, isn't this amazing? Like how much freedom you have to really go into detail, because I can zoom in. I could pull parts of it, duplicate it, create my own layers. Like how mental is that, Jenna? Like you can now layer things like in a very easy way inside of Post. Like it's incredible, but I'm going to do it really simple. What I'm going to do is, go ahead.
I think, if you think back just a few years ago, this is something that people would have had to log into Photoshop, apply like there were so many steps involved in being able to isolate an image in this way, and it made it frankly out of reach for a lot of folks. And so this is like Adobe magic really coming to life in a really simple way, right? Just a click of a button.
I think this is great. You could do this with little kids. Like if you were doing a chalk talk, and you were going to do a comprehension activity, and you're asking kids to think about what did you read, what do you remember, and have them, think about those themes and words, and then pull it up on the smart board with this on, and then pull in the images and create this collage. Like I do that. I've been doing this with workshops, like what I'm doing with all of you right now, where we're learning together, and I ask people in the chat, share your ideas, and we pull them in. It's really powerful, but kids love creating these collages. And you could do this in so many different ways for so many different purposes. So was there anyone else that wrote anything? Do we have anyone who remembers the Lord of the Flies?
We're still waiting for some entries.
Like, no, not this group. Okay, that's fine.
It's summer, so it's a little
far.
I
don't remember. All right, so I'm going to remove background. So I'm just going to show you how simple this is, because you clip in, you erase. I can also invert the cutout, which is kind of neat. Like this is maybe the best way because it's black and it looks the same, but you can also invert it. And I love this idea of the invert, because if you had students putting their faces, remember those like old school like shadow profile things that we used to do? Like, I don't know if you remember, I used to do that as a teacher. I'd have them like outline their faces with the lighting. Well, I love the idea of doing that and then having them put in icons in the middle of their face, elements that represent who they are for beginning of the school year. So just another idea. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. I got it. All right, so I could add all these different elements. This is so funny. And, really create, the look. Then I'm going to go here and I'm going to add some text. So I added my text little box. I could have chosen from some of these fancy ones, but I didn't. I click on that, and then on the right-hand side, this is also fairly new, I'm gonna add my 6-word summary. So innocent, and insecure, but strangely intelligent. Probably had some spelling errors in there, but that's not bad. So if you know who I'm speaking about as I'm summarizing this particular character, let me know in the chat. All right. So innocent and insecure, but strangely intelligent. And this is a representation of who I'm speaking about. So I've done that, and then I can go here and I can change the fonts. Or if I want, I can go to the bottom right corner, and there's this little magic button, and it will kind of, create from all the different effects that are there. You can always go in and change them, but it'll give you an idea of some of the fonts and the different ways that you can use the fonts with different effects that are available. So I'm gonna leave that like that for now. I kind of like that, but I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna choose my own color. All right.
And while you're doing this, Tanya, I think one of the things, Corey just wrote in a really great comment. The image is really sweet looking, makes me hesitant to mention, this darker theme that the book has around, I'm gonna quote you, Corey, conflict between savagery and morality. And I was thinking, on my end about the dangers of mob mentality. And I think this really gets to your point, Tanya, which is there's this very deep analysis that happens for students when you have to say, how do I represent visually something like that, right? Like, how does it translate? What is the overall feeling of my image? Does it represent the feeling of the book? Do my images represent the core themes? And so I think there's just so much implicit work that goes into creating these things that, I think it's really easy to say it's a graphic, it's one image, but actually the analysis that goes into this is very strategic for students. And I think I don't want to, I want to highlight that.
You're so spot on. And Corey, you're so right, because this might not necessarily be the tone that you want. But what I think is so great as a creative activity is if you had the students create 3 iterations of this, right? As an activity. So they're not creating 1, they're creating 3, and then share that with 2 friends, and then have conversations about which one best represents the mood and tone of what we're trying to explain and why others work and don't work. That is so powerful and such a deep conversation that you would get out of the students that I think would really be able to capture the bigger ideas in such a creative way. So just this like, remove background could have such a really interesting effect in the way that you design activities and the way that students design visual representations of their learning this year. So this is just one. And for the sake of time, we're gonna actually move on to the next one, which I'm super excited, which was what? What did we say we were going to do next?
We're gonna talk about remixable templates.
Remixable templates. Okay, so I love templates. You've seen us use some, if you've been following along. We created one, I did it with Jen Williams yesterday during our lunch, our interactive lunch, where we have like the hot air balloon and people can, add themselves in the balloon, which is so cute. And that's using a template that is open, and you can do that on your phone, but there's actually a way of creating remixable templates with your domain. And I'm gonna show you how that works today with Jenna. So let me go back here. So first of all, I can create anything on posts as a template. So this is really nice. So, and I don't like the idea of it like being like a worksheet, like bleh, please. Oh my God, I can't believe just bleh, but I bled. Like that, I don't want that to be seen as like, oh, I'm gonna make a worksheet and my kids are gonna fill out a worksheet. No, because that's like not what we want to, you know, to be using this in that way for. The idea is that we can use this as like a starting point, as like a really solid check for understanding question, or an amazing idea is using these as exit tickets. So let me get to a really, like, I think a really fun activity that works really well. So here I have the templates, but I'm going to talk about creating your own templates. So I'm going to start right here. So I actually did this morning with a group of teachers. I did an opening session. I know today's been crazy, but that's the joy of virtual. I did an opening session this morning on digital citizenship for Palm Beach School District. And my opening talk was on why teach digital citizenship. And so what I did at the end of the session is I had the students, well, I guess the teachers were my students. I gave them a link, I shortened the link, and I handed them off an exit ticket, which I think is so great. So when you are thinking about starting off the school year, this is such a great activity to get kids thinking about their goals, right? And so in this case, I had them creating an action plan. And so you can see in 5 days, I will, in 5 weeks, I will, in 5 months, I will. So I actually took this idea from Rebecca Hare, who's a superstar educator, and modified it for this particular purpose. So I have this little template and they can go in and fill it in. And then what I could do is I go to the top right corner and I can publish, okay, which is great. I can invite, so I can ask Jenna if I wanted to come and work on it with me and change it. But this is new and this is awesome. So what I can also do now is I can make a template of this. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say template now. I'm going to name, so and this was for teachers, but this could be for a pledge, right? So your students could do their pledge for the beginning of the school year. Maybe you can change it up a little bit. I love the idea of kids creating, like, first day of school, they are going to own their I hate calling them rules, but their processes and guidelines for the year. So my digital citizenship action plan. All right, so you can add a little note and then you save it to a library, foreshadowing. We're going to talk about that in a second. Or I'm going to just create a new name. So Dig Sit Action Plans. All right, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to save a template. All right, so I'm going to save my template right now. As simple as that. I am creating a template inside of Spark, Adobe Spark. And once it's finished, I'm going to be able to access my template. So right over here, so it says my digital citizenship was saved in my library. So let me go in there. I'm going to go view.
And while you're loading your library, I think one of the awesome things about this and getting students started from templates in general are that they have pretty concrete places to start learning the tool, right? You get to put structure in that says, click here, write this, swap your photo, make your Bitmoji, remove the background, but they're not hitting a blank canvas, which for some kids is, pure opportunity, and that's awesome. But for a lot of students, it's easier for them to know where to start and grow into that skill set.
All right, so of course, because I have 800 tabs open, I'm just going to go here and refresh. You know how that goes when you're presenting live, But I'm going to go back in. Perfect. I'm going to go back into my libraries in just a second. Here we go. Shared with me. Okay. So while I'm loading that, let me just open this for a second. So as I'm creating my different templates, as Jenna mentioned, one of the things that I make sure that I'm doing is I'm also kind of sharing with them, like, how do I replace different pieces? How do I, you know, if I click on this, I can remove the background, I can replace it. I show them, like, okay, I'm going to make a duplicate of the different elements and add them. So this is a great place for them to also learn how to use the tool. All right, so loading error. I love, you know, when that happens live, but I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Okay, so one of the other things that you also have access to are these pre-created templates. And these are also pretty phenomenal. There are, you can see like featured ones, you can see the ones that are in your library that you can access from there, ones that might be shared or ones that are public. And then you can also search for them in here. So I could go in and I can do like back to school. And I can pull from any of the pre-created templates that are available on the Spark like template site. And there's a lot of new cool ones that you'll be looking out for as well, that are going to be coming out, right, Jenna?
A lot. And during this back to school season, yeah, you should just wait for it. We are hard at work on creating a bunch of new content for you all.
Awesome. All right, so I'm back. Now, I'm going to go here where it says libraries. So let's talk a little bit about libraries, Jenna, because this is actually also a fairly new concept for us here at Adobe.
Yeah, libraries is a concept that if you're a Creative Cloud user has been, you know, the last couple of years, I think, been growing a lot and has now come to Spark. And I think really it just helps facilitate really good collaboration, being able to share your assets and your templates. I think it's like especially powerful in schools where teachers might be wanting to use something like this. And I'm reading the chat, you know, you could do this for equipment checkout. You could do this for contracts for students when they first come in. So each teacher might put their own spin on something like this, and libraries is, you know, the vehicle to make that super seamless and super easy.
So I use this with my team, right? Because I work in a group. I mean, I don't work alone at Adobe. So like we have libraries that we work with together. So it also helps really, allows people to collaborate really nicely. Here, let's see. I'm wondering if there's any assets. You know, we create our templates we have for events. Like, so you can see like how you can start really working collaboratively with others. And as a class, you can also share specific assets, images. Think of it as like a drive folder, like if you're using Google, right? Or like a OneDrive folder, but like of assets that you can easily share with your students to create content. So there's the ability to add assets, and then there's the ability to create templates, which I think is so wonderful. So let me go over here. I had digital action plans. There we go. So here's my template. Here it is. And I'm going to click on that. Okay. So I can go in and I can create from this template. So I can click on it. But one other thing that's really neat about this, and I'm going to just do it one more time. Let me just see if I'm able to do this. Okay, here we go. So let me do it. Round 2. Save this template. Okay. One of the really great things about this too is that it also provides you with a link. And I think that's so great because here we go. There we go. I don't know. It was not my friend the first time, but the second time it was my friend. So thank you, friend. All right. So when I go here and I choose that, I'm going to create, and I can open it up and I can create from that. But oh, here we go. That's what I was looking for. On this top right corner, this is so new. It's even new for me, Jenna. There's a little share button, and that's what I was trying to get to that I kept on moving off of. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Nothing like live demoing and missing the step that you're trying to do, but here. So let me go to libraries. I'm going to go here. I'm going to create. Okay. because there's that little invite button, and that little invite button for teachers is like gold, because what it does is it gives you, I'm doing it again. What it'll do is it give you the link. It gives you the link to share with your students. Now, once you get that link, okay, what you can do, and I'm going to show it to you right now, is you can grab that link. So I'm going to do something right now. So this is actually a link from one that I shared this morning, and I created it as a bit.ly. So I'm going to share it with all of you right now. All right. And once you have that link, I shortened it, and you can put it inside of Canva. In Canvas, you can put it inside of Teams. You can put it inside of Google Classroom. You can share it any way you want, but then when I click on it, it will open up inside of, and well, in this case, I'm already logged in, but it'll say like, hey, you need to log in, and it will open up for your students. It might ask you like, hey, you have branding assets, you just continue, but you have to be logged into your school account to use it. And then there will be, they will open it up and they can work off of it straight up. So that makes it really seamless. Of course, I didn't share the link the right time the first time, but it's really straightforward to create them, and then they're in your students are able to open up and work from it. So I wanted to see if there were any questions before we moved on. So I'm looking down.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a ton of questions, but a lot of really good ideas coming in about how they could use these tools in the specific context that they're working. So I think if you are watching this in the chat and struck with inspiration, please share in the chat, because I think it's so helpful to read how other educators plan on using this or leveraging this with their students. A lot of the ideas come from our peers who are doing really good work.
So I see Jennifer also had a good question. So I know you answered, but yes, you would build your library before you would use it. So you would, so here, these are a bunch of my libraries right here. So I would build out the content that I want to share and then share it with my students. And that's what really what I was trying to do was I was showing you that you can create the link and grab the link and easily share it. I mean, you could share it with individual people as well, but the nice thing about grabbing the link is that you don't have to share it with individual students. You could just grab that link and share it out with your class, which makes it so much faster to share out your content with them. And that's what I was before trying to get at. So yeah, you can put in any of the assets that you want and build out for them before class, and then share it with them so that they have access to all their assets. And it's a great way to help them get started at the beginning of the school year. Awesome. I see Dr. I. So cool. Thanks, Dr. I love you. Okay, so we have just a few minutes left, Jenna, and I wanted to just share some resources with people as you're thinking about getting started at the beginning of the school year. And I see so many people sharing some great ideas. So Jennifer said, if I'm a new user, how do I get content for my library? So I built out, for instance, a template, right? And that was something that I wanted to share with my students. So you can either, like, if you were creating some of your own templates or graphics, you might put that in there if you wanted them to use the templates in your class with them so that they could remix them. Or if you wanted to share images, so think of it as like a folder. So like if I go in here, let's have a look at this one. This is one that I happen to use a lot, and I use it to build out social media assets with my group, with my team. So in here, oops, I clicked back on libraries. But what it has is like a bunch of visual assets that I build out my graphics with. And of course, okay, so it's not my friend today. I'm gonna just click off it, but you can add graphics, you could add images, you could add, if there's elements that you find that you like, that you have, like it could be clip art, it could be, logos that you use. any kind of visual elements that you might want to use with students to develop out something from scratch, you can create, or they can go in and start from scratch inside of Spark Post. So that's some ways of thinking about it. Okay, so I now want to make sure that I leave you with a few ideas to get started in your school this year. So first of all, one of the things that I created last year to kind of kick off the school year was this. I created this blog post, and I think it's still so relevant. So here, let me just paste it in here. So I have these 5 templates to start off your school year. So here's a few really quick ones that I created last year. So this was a course syllabus template. This was an online class background header, so for Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. So those are the sizes. I created this pledge poster template, get to know me template for getting to know my students, or I created this exit ticket. So I have those templates that I just shared. And another thing that I love was just this great back to school idea that I used to do with my students. And I put it inside this blog, and I'm gonna post it right over here. Paste. So you're probably getting them before I even begin talking about it in the chat. But I have these back to school videos that I would make with Spark Video. And I also would have them create a page using Spark Page. So hold on, I'm just gonna open that up. Here's the tutorials for getting started, and here is my example. So if you're thinking about, just in general, well, it's not liking me today, Jenna. I don't know. It's like everything I'm touching is just like not working.
Yeah,
I will post it back in the chat. I have an example of my back to school page. And so it's just a great way to get started with back to school. You create a Spark page and a Spark About Me video, and you post that and give that to your students and their parents. So at the very beginning of the school year, they get started with getting to know who you are and have all your information in one place. It's a great activity. But I will make sure that that goes back in, and I'll fix that link. I think they just moved over the blog, and maybe that link got disconnected. And then finally, I have this really great blog. And this is from my best friend, Holly Clark. And I absolutely love this blog post. And she shares 5 very creative ways to infuse your classroom with Adobe Spark. And so I love this, like having students remix a regular writing assignment with Adobe Page. Or she has reading short story bento book videos using Adobe Spark Post and Page. So I love that. That's a great way of thinking about removing background, right? Creating these, and she shows how to do that. And then this is what I was talking about before, right? 6-word summaries and a think, pick, share. So this is a really, I love these. These are great examples. And then I love this, reports with Spark Video and state report advertisements using Spark Video. So I wanted to just share some ideas for thinking about activities, things you could do this year with your students to kind of kick off the school year with Adobe Spark. And I'm gonna go in and make sure that my link is updated, and I'll share it in the chat as well in just a second. But if there's any questions, that's the joy of live, right, Jenna? Like anything can happen, including your links that don't always connect. But I see in the chat some people who are sharing some really creative projects that they have made as well. So please, if you have any questions or if there's anything that you would like us to answer, please feel free to ask inside the chat. So I see, could you use this to make IG posts for your book promotion? Totally. this is probably the best tool to do that. So you can use Spark Post or video and pull together Instagram posts really easily. And the nice thing about it is the square size is the right size. So that's definitely a great tool for that. So Jenna, any final words, anything, any thoughts for the upcoming school year for our teachers?
No, I would say this has been a great session showing off some of the things that have come out in the last few months. As always, the team is hard at work on a lot of exciting new features that probably the next time you see us, we'll be able to go through them with you. But keep yourself plugged in. You know, the product is always looking to evolve and better meet the needs of students and educators. And so make sure that you pay attention in the next few months, because we have some really exciting things coming out.
Oh my goodness, so many exciting things coming up. I can't wait for next year, our summit, and when we'll go into even all those updates. And by the way, Jenna, just because I was so upset, I made sure that I wanted to, before we click off, because I wanted to show that this actually existed. I found it, and I'm going to paste it in the chat. But here we go. This is what I was talking about. So great idea for back to school. This was my course, Spark. You put in a Spark video and you share the big themes about your class with your parents and students. And so it's just such a great way to teach about yourself.
I'm so excited to be joining North Broward.
So there you go. So this is just a great little activity that you can do right off the bat today, you know, to kick off your school year with Spark, and you know, get started with your class and teaching them about you, and then getting your students to introduce themselves. Sorry, I had to show that, Jenna, because I was like, this was a really great idea, and I was so upset that it wasn't working. But yes, if there's any questions, if anyone has any thoughts, ideas, questions for us.
We have a question from Colleen, I think, when we were going through the remove background piece about can you adjust text and paragraph spacing horizontally and vertically?
Inside of the
Spark post.
Yes, you can. It's similar to like if you were on a Google Doc and you're moving your text. You can choose how you want the text to, the flow of the text. It's just loading. But if I click on the text area, here we go. I can move my text formatting around, and I can change so many different elements about my text myself.
And Tanya, are you intending to share your screen right now?
Yeah. I need to get some rest. This has been a crazy week, Jenna. It's been a crazy week.
Just confirming.
Yeah, and you know what I love about all of our community is that they so get us, because you guys have been working your bums off all year, and you know how crazy it is on virtual. So I appreciate your patience. So yes, here you go. If you go like this, you can switch it around anyway. As long as you click on the text box, it'll give you all these great options of ways that you can edit it. So like I was on the text, on the shape, I can change the, you know, I can change so much on my own as well. So you have a lot of freedom in terms of how you want it to look. So I hope that helped. All right, well, if anyone needs to get a hold of us, the best place for me to reach me is always on Twitter. It's true. I'm like much faster on, if someone tweets me, I will get back to you probably a lot quicker than I will anywhere else. So you can reach me at Tanya Avrith. And here we go. I put that in the chat. Jenna, where's the best place for people to reach our product team at Adobe?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can definitely reach us through Tanya. She is quick on the draw there, so I highly recommend. You can also just reach me directly at my email, which I'll post in the chat.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. We're kind of rolling with the punches. I see some of you might be also having some connection issues. I think that it's just a lot of people on a platform, which is a good thing. We're so blessed to have all of you here today. You know, hopefully we will be able to see you back if you're having any of those connectivity issues. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. We are really thrilled about what's coming down in the next few months, and we're really excited to be sharing updates as they happen. So definitely follow me if you're not, because I share them as I get them, as I'm allowed to share them. So be on the lookout, and we're, you know, we can't wait for you to share what you're working on this year as well. So if you are using any templates, if you use any of the ideas that you learned in this product session today, please tweet me at TinyAvrith and share. And remember, of course, to be tweeting at Adobe EDU Creative. I live on there. I am constantly checking what you do. It gives me life. So I really look forward to seeing what you do and how you apply your learning this year. Jenna, thank you so much for coming on with me.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. I'm looking forward to seeing what folks are doing with what they've learned today.
Absolutely. We are going to be on the lookout. Thanks, everyone. Have a great remainder of your day.
Thanks, everyone.